Second.
Mayor made the motion. I don't know who seconded that.
Councilmember Allen.
Councilmember Allen, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, back to regular session. So we had a discussion with staff in executive session. Gave staff the direction that they need, and there's no further action necessary on this item tonight. Okay. So staff will be contacting you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, and thanks everyone for your patience with us. One item on the consent agenda is acceptance of parcels of land from the Altman Land and Cattle Company, LLC, for the vineyards at Cottonwood, LLC, for city right-of-way. Are there any council members that wish to pull that item for discussion? No? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Oh.
Okay, Councilmember Pfeiffer made the motion, and Councilmember Althouse seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved. Moving on to new business, we have a memorandum of understanding with Verde Valley Habitat for Humanity for the establishment of the Cottonwood KAIROS program. I believe we have Chief of Police Gazelle here to present tonight.
You do. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, the ask is for Council to approve the MOU with Habitat for Humanity. If I can refresh your memory, our initiative is called Cottonwood KAIROS, which is an initiative that's really, we're very excited about it. It's two-pronged. One is we're trying to promote self-reliance and encourage, excuse me, healthy environments. And we want to do that through trying to convince people to not give money to panhandlers. Social service providers will tell you quite frequently that 9 times out of 10 you're promoting a destructive lifestyle habit rather than helping. So this initiative is a collaborative that is intended to an attempt to persuade our citizenry and visitors to donate to a Cottonwood KAIROS, which is the program that will enable us to channel these funds rather than going into destructive lifestyle choices, funding our local social service agencies to promote those healthy environments. Win-win for the community and the individual. Our partners represented tonight are certainly the Verde Valley Habitat for Humanity. Tanya Sims is here, Executive Director. Matt Force is a partner as well. Marilee Fowler had to go, she was here earlier. And also another familiar face is Christian. There you go. Christian Olives from the River. I think that's the translation from our wonderful Chamber of Commerce is here as well. So we just wanted to, again, encourage Council to approve the MOU, and we also have the PSA to preview, for Council to preview tonight. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, council members and Mayor Alinsky. So I'm here to represent Verde Valley Habitat for Humanity, of course, and we're just very pleased to be able to partner with the city in this initiative. We have a common philosophy of giving a hand up instead of a hand up, and that's kind of where our efforts combine, and also to be able to be the fiduciary and manage any donations that come in for the initiative. So we very much appreciate the partnership.
And so do we. Thank you.
Thank you. Look at that. Couldn't ask for more. So this PSA, to preface it, produced through Cable One. They produce a great local product, 30-second spot. Part of the donations will go to continuing the messaging element of the program or the initiative. This is the PSA intended for web and television. And we also have a print version that was produced through pro bono work from Sedona Marketing, Hank and Sharon Uloff as well.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness.
When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
So the central piece of that, if you saw it, was the change morphing from, or the money morphing into drugs and alcohol before it hits the panhandlers' hand. Very similar to another initiative I was involved in a past life. Very, very effective, and I'd like to say it's cutting edge. And I'll show you this real quick, and we will be out of your way. So this is the print version, again, using that as a centerpiece. I'm crudely going through this, my apologies. And that's it. So where we are today, if I could get the lights, please. The last remaining piece of the program is to get the landing page or the web page together. It's under construction currently, again, using Cable One. And once that is up and running, we will be up and running, and we'll be live with the program.
Very good.
Any questions?
I have one. Steve, do I have a conflict?
Because of Matt Force?
No, Matt Force, and I work for the chamber. So maybe no? Okay.
Okay. Chief Gazelle, can you go into a little bit more detail about where the money goes when somebody...
Certainly. So Habitat, what they've graciously done is volunteer to be our fiscal agent. Mm-hmm. So the city is completely out of handling donations that would come in. So Tanya and her crew will establish a link or a bank account that will be linked to that landing page. Mm-hmm. And essentially that's where people would go, and that's where the media will drive them to go to that website. Mm-hmm. And if they wanted to make a donation, I believe it's PayPal, correct, Tanya? PayPal or a mechanism similar to it will allow people to donate. That money will go into their account, and then the partners, which I've named those entities, we will have essentially a group of project decision makers where there's a benchmark of whatever that group decides, 4,000, 5,000, whatever the dollar amount is. Tanya hypothetically will say, hey, we have partners, we have $5,000 in the account. We'd like to meet and decide what social service agencies are going to receive those funds. And then typically what we would do is send out an announcement to local social service providers, inviting them to fill out some type of a simple application for funding. And that also allows us to perpetuate the message and showing that we're giving back to the local community and the providers that we have here in our city.
So then the partners that would make the decision then would be from Matt Force, Chamber of Commerce, City of Cottonwood, and Habitat?
Exactly.
Okay, I understand. But that money would be distributed to other social service providers in the area,
correct?
Not necessarily those four partners.
Yes,
okay.
Social service providers that locally have a reputation for programmatic programs, I should say, that are proven to help transition people away from homelessness and addictive behaviors.
Okay. Please.
Make a motion?
Sure.
No,
Are there any other
I have
questions?
a question.
Please.
Okay. Community Cares, I believe, is also used for other funds. I thought we funneled money through it for like Welcome Home Vietnam vets. So this money is kept completely separate? Maybe my question is more for Rudy.
It's Cottonwood Cares.
It's Cottonwood Cares.
Not Community Cares.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, community counts, right.
Yeah, I was thinking Community Cares. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Please. Thank you.
I move to approve the proposed memorandum of understanding with Verde Valley Habitat for Humanity to create the Cottonwood Cares Initiative, subject to approval of the final form of agreement by the city attorney.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Allen made the motion. Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Motion is approved. Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is Water Conservation Education Program for kindergarten through 8th grade students. We have Mr. Whitmer with us and others. A whole entourage tonight. Thank you.
They're not with us. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come before you to request your continued support and funding for what I feel is a very worthwhile program. That's a water conservation education program for kindergarten through 8th grade. With me, I have Aaron Cody from Verde Natural Resources Conservation District, and of course, Ms. Bright Kreitz from the city. For those of you who are new to the council, this will be something new. Those of you who've been on the council for more than 4 years, this will be a third time coming before you to request continuation of this program. For those of you who are new, though, let me just kind of give you a brief summary or a history of where we've come from and where we're at today. A little over 4.5 years ago, we were approached by the Verde Natural Resources Conservation District to assist them in putting together a water conservation curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade. What makes this very unique is that it was something that nobody else had done in terms of, from a municipality standpoint. There had been other programs like Project WET and others that had water conservation programs for grade schoolers, elementary school, and middle school, but it typically focused on 1 or perhaps even 2 grade levels, and the rest of them were just kind of left to their own devices when it came to water conservation. What this program was designed to do initially was to provide classroom water conservation education for grades kindergarten through 8th, which was unique, and Cottonwood actually adopted the program approximately 4 years ago, and which made Cottonwood the first municipality in the state of Arizona to actually adopt a K through 8th grade water conservation education program. The program itself was specific to the Cottonwood Oak Creek elementary and middle schools. Since that point in time, the program has evolved to where it's now not only just classroom work, but it's also hands-on field activities that the Verde Natural Resource Conservation District actually presents to all the kids. And so every grade from K through 8th gets not only classroom work, but also field work. They all have field trips. They're all doing hands-on activities related to things related to water. The program addresses not only water conservation, but it gives them a broad overview of water in general, where it comes from, how it gets to your house, what happens to it, why we should conserve, and so on. It tries to kind of pull things all together so the kids really get a full understanding of water in general, not just the conservation side, but also facts about water, which is pretty unique and very successful. I myself, from listening to what I see, because I also work with the high schoolers on some other things, when we first started the high school, like the video water conservation video contest, you looked at the kids who had not been exposed to this program at that point in time to the kids today that have gone through the program. They have a much broader understanding of water in general. And so anyways, we're here today to try and gain support again, financial support for another 2 years of the program. The cost to the city of Cottonwood is $17,760 per year, which would come out of the Water Conservation Fund. The overall project, or the overall program, runs about $29,000, but the Verde Natural Resource Conservation District, since the very first time we funded this, has managed to go out and gain some other financial supporters in the form of the Bureau of Reclamation now is supporting to the tune of a little over $1,700. They've received a grant for just under $1,000, and also Saltwater Project is now funding it at the tune of about $8,600 per year as well, which has now allowed them to take the program one step further and not just do the public schools, but they're also now entering into the charter school system, which is very key and critical.
Good.
And so with that, I would hope that you would continue your support for the next 2 years. And if you have any specific questions, if I can answer them, I'm sure Aaron or Debbie can do it.
Great. Council, any questions?
It's a great program.
Yeah. Now we're starting at the right time, too. Start them young. Yeah, it's great. Would you just, Mr. Whitman, please go into detail about, again, how the money's collected?
How is it collected?
How is it collected from our water bills, and just explain it for the members of the public.
As most of you are aware, I'm sure, that on each bill there is a fee that is attached to the bill specific to water conservation. And I think it's 25 cents.
I don't know off the top of my head. It's relatively small.
What is it? I think it's 27. 27? 27 cents. It's what is on each bill. There's a 27 cents fee that is assessed for water conservation. Very worthwhile, and this is specifically what that was intended for. And like I said, it's made Cottonwood very unique. Now, Clarkdale adopted it shortly after we did, and they're doing the same thing up in their area as well. But I think Cottonwood and Clarkdale are the only two municipalities in the state that do have a K through 8th grade water conservation education program.
That's great. Very good. All right.
Do the ladies have anything to add?
Yeah, please.
So I took over 2 years ago from Linda Zanoli.
If you would just step up to the mic, please. Thank you.
Sorry. And so since I've taken over, we've grown the project from about 1,500 students per year in Cottonwood to this year we reached 2,000, and I have a goal of reaching 2,100 next year. We started out with just Cottonwood Middle School, and now we reach all of Cottonwood Oak Creek School District. This year I reached out to American Heritage School and Verde Valley Montessori School as well, and we hope to continue that next year as well, and also including more charter and private schools into the program as well.
Fantastic.
We've also seen 34% increase in student knowledge. From beginning our programs to the end of our program, we're seeing 34% increase in their knowledge from what they knew before. So it's really exciting, very beneficial to the students.
Great. Ms. Breckreitz, please.
Since I have my new title now, Regulatory Compliance, Safety, and Education Administrator, a portion of this is obviously the education. So we have approximately, last year and the past couple of years, have had about 800 8th graders come through the Mingus plant to do tours, and this is part of the program. We put them through, giving them a tour. They go through each stage of what's going on, and the 8th graders come and do that. I've also helped out doing her 4th grader, some of the 4th grader stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the city wants to continue, obviously, to help do this program, and I want to actually get more into doing some of the teaching or helping out with that, just so I can expand, the knowledge that I have and my love of wastewater to the future generations.
Right. Very good. Very good.
Excellent.
Please.
The last of my 4 great-grandkids that have gone through there, I had to explain to her just this last weekend why she had to go see that stuff floating in that water. She couldn't understand because she kept going, black, black. But she learned a lot from just going out. They do enjoy it.
All right. Thanks for all you do.
Mayor?
Yeah. Yes, please.
And I have to just also give a kudos, as Mr. Whitmer was saying, to watch the degree of sophistication that our youth have now, that have had the training since they were in kindergarten, to what our high schoolers were several years ago, is leaps and bounds. I mean, the knowledge that they have and are bringing to the table is just incredible, and we thank you for that.
Yeah, water no longer comes from a faucet.
Exactly.
Right. Very good. All right, then I will go ahead and move to approve the funding of the K through 8th grade water conservation education program through school year 2018-19 at a cost of $17,760 per year.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Vice Mayor seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion's approved. Thank you very much for being here. All right, moving on. Item 3 under new business is consideration and possible approval of the final plat for Phase 1 of the Vineyards at Cottonwood, a 41 single-family residential subdivision located at the northeast corner of State Route 89A and Rosetta Ranch Road, and a financial assurance agreement for completion of utility infrastructure and other public improvements. Mr. Scully.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This project has gone through a lot of steps to get to this point here tonight. Starting almost a year and a half ago, the development process had 2 big steps to go through, starting with the rezoning. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing last July to consider the rezoning. City Council considered the rezoning at both the September meetings of last year and in November, where the ordinance was approved for the rezoning for this overall project. It's almost 101 acres, and it approved up to 555 residential units in a mixed type of housing. The master development plan for the rezoning also included a description of how the project would go through in 9 development phases with the mix of housing types to be determined at the time, so that it could be single-family residential, townhomes, a mixed cluster type of housing, patio homes they call it, and possibly even in a condo apartments. But that would be determined at each phase with that would be determined at each phase with as long as it does not exceed 555 units. The second big part of the development process was the subdivision process. And that started also in November of last year with the preliminary plat. It went to a public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then to the City Council in January of this year with the preliminary plat, which was approved. And that was for the phase 1 with 41 units, and that is in the process, it goes from the preliminary plat, they go to the final plat, and in between, it goes through staff technical review process, in which, in this case, being the first phase, there was considerable amount of background work that needed to be done to establish the overall project. And a development agreement and other agreements, and the parts that will go easier in the next phases. The final plat does not go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission because it's essentially the same as the preliminary plat. It's just taking care of all the technical requirements. And so tonight, gone through the process, and the engineering and the utilities and all the technical parts that are needed have been agreed upon. And if I go through the conditions of approval, there's 10 conditions for the final plat. It'll also summarize the documents that go along with this process as well, being worked on through, in particular, extensively with the developers and the city attorney, the office of the city attorney, and all the support that went through that process. The first 4 conditions are related to recording of documents that need to be accomplished. Starting with the development agreement. The development agreement applies to the overall development of the whole 101 acres and the 555 potential units. That had a lot of work going on all year, but I believe the reason we're here tonight is because the agreement was made to sign the document and get it recorded. The second condition has to do with recording of the final plat. That is the 3 sheets, the 3 pages that are an attachment on your, you should have an attachment that says final plat, phase 1, revised. Those are, the final plat document itself that gets signed is, in this particular case, is 3 sheets, and that gets, would get signed and recorded before construction starts. The third condition has to do with the phase 1 assurance agreement, and that is the technical document that goes along with the financial assurances related to phase 1. And then number 4 is the actual financial assurance instrument that gets signed and recorded.
It gets deposited with the city.
It's deposited. Okay. Well, that has to be signed and agreed upon.
Right.
So those relate to the documents that get recorded. The following 6 conditions of approval for the financial, for the final plat are, the first one is more of a catch-all overriding that it just needs to be in compliance with the plans that are approved and all the agreements. The second one has to do with setting the corners. That's just a part of the land survey process where they post the corners and define it. That happens in any case, but that's here in the, it happens as part of the subdivision process through the land survey requirements. Condition 3 has to do, I believe, with the consent agenda item tonight. So that had to do with the ownership of, there were some fragments that happened to end up in the right-of-way, but I believe that was taken care of through the consent agenda item. Items 4 and 5 have to do with completion of the development of the street edge of the surrounding abutting parts of Rosetta Ranch Road and Anna's Avenue. That would be a standard expectation that they complete the abutting streets improvements in phase 1. And then number 6, I think was something that I thought it was part of the development agreement, but it's finalizing the easements for the primarily the off-site utilities and trail corridor.
That's right, and the developer's obtaining that from another private property owner pursuant to an agreement, and the city's going to get that. We had some work to do to finalize that, but the donor was going to a wedding in Cancun, so when he gets back, we'll finalize that.
So with these conditions and with the documents that have been received related to the final plat and the engineering package and all the rest, that I believe it's ready to approve the final plat. The developers have the representatives here tonight as well.
Okay. Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Scully? No. Okay. Would we care to have a representative from the developer?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll go ahead and call forward the representative. Please, sir. How are you this evening?
Doing well, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Clark Pettit, one of the managing members of Granite Mountain Asset Management and the Vineyards at Cottonwood, jointly the developer of the project. Michael Foster, one of the colleagues, is here. Two of our managing members were hoping to be here, but they were branding cattle on the ranch, and let's just say the cattle are not very well trained and didn't cooperate. So unfortunately, they give their apologies. Just very quickly, I wanted to say thank you to all the council members for all of your work to get to this point. In particular, I'd like to thank Morgan, Baron, and Charlie, and the rest of the staff. You know, we bought the property from Mr. Grosetta 14 months ago, and as developer, we can definitely tell you we're excited to be at this point, and I suspect that I'm speaking honestly for Morgan and Baron in particular, that they're pretty happy to be at this point too. It's been a lot of work. And very last, I just wanted to say thank you to Steve Horton. Over the last 3 weeks, you used the usual discovery of the 100 things that you think are wrapped up and they weren't wrapped up. And Steve stepped up considerably and spent a lot of time working directly with me, including a lot of late phone calls and things, getting things sorted out. We wouldn't be here today if not for that, so I appreciate that. I wanted to get you a token of our appreciation. Being a lawyer, I figured getting you a contract would be the right thing to do, so here's a letter of credit from the bank, token of our appreciation.
For a mere $1.7 million?
Exactly.
Cashier's check.
No new cards around the table. So can I answer any questions, or is there anything else that...
Any questions for Mr. Pettit? No? Okay. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. We really are excited to proceed.
Good. Good, good. Okay. Any other further discussion from council? No? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the final plat for Phase 1 of the Vineyards at Cottonwood development, subject to all staff recommendations and recommended stipulations, and to approve the attached Phase 1 assurance agreement, subject to the approval of the final form of agreement by the city attorney.
Second. Okay, so Councilmember Allen made the motion, Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion's approved. Thank you. Okay, next up is a proposed alley improvement and shared cost agreement between the city, LeMaine LLC, and Jerome Properties LLC for construction of alley improvements between Pinal and Pima Streets from Main to Cactus.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Morgan Scott with Development Services, and we're here today to talk about a proposed agreement. I apologize.
Thank you.
There, now we're all looking at the same thing. So we're here tonight to talk about a proposed agreement to share in the cost of developing an alley here in Old Town. So there are two developments proposed here in Old Town. One called LeMaine, I believe is the name of the group, and they do have a representative here tonight. LeMaine owns both properties you see outlined here in red. And just so everyone knows about where we're at, here's Main Street. This is Pima Street right here. So actually, we are currently right here at the council chambers. So this is just the block north of us. LeMaine owns both of these parcels outlined in red. They're proposing, I believe, a retail location on this site and a condo location on this site, I believe. I'll let them come up and talk more about their proposed developments here in a minute. Also, I believe it's Jerome Properties LLC owns this parcel here in green, and they are expanding a hotel in that area. Many of you have seen that one's actually under construction, well under construction. It's going to be a beautiful building. Both of those developments are going to benefit by the improvements of the alley. So they've approached the city to see if the city wants to consider a cost-sharing agreement. They've been working with our city attorney on developing that agreement. Basically, if I can summarize what the agreement is, the city would pay the cost to design the alley at a cost of about $8,000, and both the developers would then share the cost of developing the alley itself. And I believe, and I'll let them speak to this, I believe they've even got one other property owner on this block to contribute partially to the development of that alley. One major benefit to the city is this ties, how do I say this? It verifies that the improvements will be built even if one development falls through. Basically, they are agreeing to the ability for the other property owners, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, the other property owners can lien their property should they not follow through with their terms of the agreement. So this basically makes sure that the alley is going to be developed, even if one development falls through. So other benefits to moving forward? Sorry, Steve, did you want to say something to that?
No, I think Mr. Stottleman, when he gets up, he might add a clarification, but the city's kind of a technical term, a stranger to that part of the transaction. Really, at this point, the way the agreements evolved, the city's only involvement would be to provide the design for the project and then to accept the project once it's complete.
Other benefits to the city, we don't have alley standards right now. We have road standards, we have other such standards. We don't have an alley standard, so someone can come in and just build whatever. Because we'll be designing it, we can make sure, okay, both flooding is going to be taken into high concern. As many of you know, there's a property owner here on the north end of this alley, which of course is the direction of drainage, that has been prone to flooding in the past. So we'll have to take that into high consideration. We'll also take maintenance into high consideration, because obviously it's going to be the city's to own and maintain when we're done. So that's about all I have, but we do have representatives from both the developments here today if you have questions for them.
Any questions for staff first before we move on?
I did have a question. I'm still not clear. So we're not actually donating that $7,800 figure is not money. It's design services. Okay.
If you're asking if that's in kind, I think there had been some discussion about staff doing the design work in-house, but I think where we've landed right now is SEC, which is, I believe, the engineers for both of the private projects, would provide the design, but at city expense. So it would be hard cost.
Okay. That is correct. Yes. And thank you for reminding me, Steve. Yes, the reason we would like to recommend SEC is they are the design engineers for both of the developments. That's critical to make sure that the plans line up, both vertically and horizontally, to make sure we don't have a big change in grade at the areas. And while we're still up here, we jump down here. just to make sure we're all familiar with the areas. This is a view from Pinal Street, looking at the alley. This is the Cottonwood Hotel here. This is the actual alley itself. Looking down, so you have the Tavern Grill at the far end, Cottonwood Hotel here. This is the north end. You've got the Cottonwood Hotel, I'm sorry, the Tavern Hotel here, Tavern Grill. So we're looking north from Pinal Street. So many of you may be more familiar with these street views than the more the overhead. One more thing I'd like to show you. This is actually Pinal Street looking north, and many of you know the city took on the cost of building that entire, designing and building that alley ourselves a few years ago. So this is something that it may look like when you're done. We're actually leaning away from the valley gutter. That caused some problems during construction, but it will look something like this by the time we're done.
That was one of my questions, was on the design of that, because I know we had a lot of issues and still have a lot of issues with that. The end of that alley, it channels all that water and it's create quite a nuisance down at the end where it turns into gravel. So I just want to make sure that whatever improvements we make are going to be, won't cause us any issues down the road.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the benefits is once the drainage here gets to Pinal Street, obviously Pinal Street's in curb and gutter, so we'll views from there. And you'll remember we had to put this concrete apron in here to protect some of the downstream buildings. We'll probably look at something similar to that with this design.
But the issues there at Cottonwood Hotel will be, SEC will be responsible for making sure that we don't further exacerbate any kind of drainage issues, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for staff? No. Would either of the developers care to address council?
Good evening, council and staff. My name is A.R.S, owner of the Tavern Hotel, and own a few of the other businesses here in the business district. Somehow, I'm not even sure how this began. A year or 2 years ago, this alley's been talked about for a long time. I have 8 parking places going into the alley in front of the hotel. An additional 8 8 parking places in the alley. On top of the parking places we're putting over on Pima Street. I'm keeping all my streets correct at this point. I don't know if it was required or not to pave the alley. It's been so long, I can't remember. I know it was part of LeMain's deal, and I went and opened up my mouth and said I would get involved because I wanted it to look nice. And that turned into the city was going to pave the alley and run it, and we were going to donate money to now we're doing the alley and hiring the contractor because maybe we can do it for less, and I don't know if we can, but we can definitely probably do it quicker to get it done to hit all of our time frames. As a business owner in the historic district, our alleys are an unfortunate problem, our infrastructure back there. If you look at the old pictures of Cottonwood, Main Street, you can see that the curbs used to be, 20, 30 inches, and we're down to 6 inches because through the years we've just filled up Old Town with asphalt and dirt and runoff, and the streets get higher all the time. This alley's been a bit of a problem, but we're having problems in all 4 alleys, just while I have a quick minute with all of you. The trash companies, one of them have now refused to go down our alleys, and the other one is threatening not to go down our alleys, in the commercial district due to the condition of them. And so this is 1 alley out of 4 we're going to have to address. We've worked hard, myself, LeMain, the attorneys, all the city. This is coming to you with a lot of effort and input. SEC is working on the design / liability because as local property owners, we don't want liability either. So we want to build correct, no problems, and get through it. It'll look good. We're adding depth to Old Town, and not only do we believe cars and deliveries will go up and down the alley, we believe it will become, we're adding a little depth to Main Street, and pedestrians will also probably use the alleys. I do. Any questions?
And I will note, and Barron can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the alley improvement was a stipulation to the approval of Mr. Jersen's project as well.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. And would the developer for Lemaine care to present to council? No. Nope. You're under no obligation. But you came all this way, so.
I just want to introduce myself. I'm John Haupt. I'm part of the Lemaine Development Group. And do you have any questions on my project? We're the red outline on the plat.
I've followed your project through all of its design phase. I'm looking forward to it being built.
Yep, we're chomping at the bit to get going on it. Yeah. So.
I don't have any questions for you. Any other council members? No. Okay. Thanks for being here, and thanks for participating in this agreement too. I think it's a great agreement for the city and the residents. Any other discussion from council? No. Okay.
Motion.
Yes, please.
Move to approve the proposed alley improvement and shared cost agreement between Lemaine LLC, Jerome Properties LLC, and the city to improve the alley between Pima and Pinell Streets from Main Street to Cactus Street, subject to approval of the final form of agreement by the city attorney.
Second. Vice Mayor made the motion. Mayor seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion's approved. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, next up is extension of on-call professional services contract with CNS Engineers, Inc., and approval of scope and fee proposal for contract administration services for the second phase of the airport apron reconstruction project. Mr. Scott.
Members of the council, Morgan Scott again. Get out of your way soon. So kind of exciting, but a little bit of complication on this project. We do have a 95% grant from both the FAA and ADOT. It's approximately 95%, 94.47 something, for reconstruction of the airport apron. Many of you will remember we did a seal back in, I believe, 2010. That seal has since come apart. And many of our local pilots have petitioned both ADOT and the FAA for funds. Due to those petitions, we now have the funds to reconstruct the second portion of the apron. We did construct the first portion last year. In fact, that just recently got paid out finally. So we are moving forward. We would like to suggest CNS engineers for the for the construction management services. Basically, they bid it, they do the inspection, they make, the city ultimately pays, but they make a recommendation that everything's been paid, units, prices, everything else. The reason we do that, because obviously we're qualified for a paving project in-house. When it comes to the airport, there's everything from FAA requirements to safety plans to everything else. But obviously CNS, we only have one airport. We have a lot of streets that we can take care of. So we do recommend we go with the construction administration services. CNS is not only the designer of the project, they also were the construction administration service provider for phase one. So we are comfortable with them. We also have an on-call contract with them. This is where it gets a little more complicated, so I apologize. I'm going to slow down. I ran through that. We have an on-call contract with CNS engineers right now. That expires at the end of this month.
Jeez. Sorry. I hate these bottles.
That on-call contract expires at the end of this month. We did have, I think we wrote it originally, it was a 1 year and 2 one-year extensions. We're actually at the end of all of the extensions. So normally we do another RFQ that CNS could obviously provide qualifications for, but may not be selected. So that's where the complications come in. We are recommending that the City Council consider direct selecting CNS and extending their services to the end of this year so they can move forward with the construction administration services on this project alone. We won't do any other projects with CNS until we've done that RFQ process again. We ran that by the FAA and ADOT because we're blending money, city, FAA, city, state, and federal. We have to meet everyone's procurement process. And Steve, please feel free to step in here if I step on my tongue. So, per our own procurement process, we're allowed to direct select. In this scenario, obviously we can't always direct select, but in this scenario, when we've got a company this familiar, per our own procurement laws, or procurement policies, we can direct select. The FAA and ADOT actually is not okay with us direct selecting. However, they're actually okay, since we're right now under contract, they're okay with us writing this contract and saying it's okay if this project extends past the on-call contract period. So that's where it's a little complicated. Technically, we're okay per city procurement policies. We're okay for FAA and ADOT, but we're okay for different reasons. So, Steve, I'm not sure if I explained that very well.
I think you nailed it. And it has to come to council because it's over $50,000. But because of the nature of the service, it's not construction. It's something that the city can, it's a professional service that the city can properly identify a provider that's been doing this exact work for us before and decide to continue the relationship.
And should you choose to extend their contract at the end of this year, it would not, even though it is an on-call contract, no other projects will go towards it. This will be the last project. We'll start the RFQ process.
Okay. All right. Council, please.
I have a question. So the RFQ process is going to start fairly soon, even though they're going to, okay, that's what I was hoping.
That way we will have another on-call contract for the next couple of years. Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion from council? Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and move to extend the on-call engineering services contract with CNS Engineers, Inc. until December 31, 2017, and approve the proposed scope of work and fee proposal to provide contract administration services for the second phase of the airport apron reconstruction project for a not-to-exceed fee of $167,929 pending final award of the matching grants for this project by the FAA and ADOT.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion's approved. Thank you. All right, next up is consideration of not holding regularly scheduled council meetings during the month of August. And this is something that would come up every year for the last few years.
Couple of years,
yeah.
2 or 3.
Staff had asked if I wanted to maybe consider presenting this to council. Basically, we don't meet in the month of August unless there's some dire need to. It gives folks an opportunity to go on vacation, council members. Gives staff the opportunity to not have to scramble to get packets together for us. It's an option to present to council. I've historically voted against it just because I'm a workaholic, I guess. But I always feel like there's so much work to be done that skipping an entire month would set us behind. But wanted to give council an opportunity to weigh in.
I think one of the reasons.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think one of the reasons that we also did that is we had National Night Out in August, and that fell on a Tuesday, and then we have the conference, which falls on a Tuesday through Friday. Mm-hmm. So we had 2 meetings that typically we weren't able to hit, mm-hmm. and that made it easier. I don't know that that's happening this year because we've moved National Night Out to a different date, and we've got 3 free weeks right there without. The conference is actually the week after. Usually it's during council meeting, but it's actually the 4th week this year. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. How does the rest of the council feel?
I agree with you. I'm against it. I never understood it. I mean, we were elected to serve, and mm-hmm. there's weeks that we can take, vacation, and I think we should serve.
Okay.
I never thought about the staff aspect of it, but no.
No, it wasn't something that
staff
brought up for our
no.
no, it was brought up by our former mayor.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you on this one. I think occasionally someone might have to miss a meeting. That's why there's 7 of us. Mm-hmm. But
okay.
I might have to miss a couple in August. It's my birthday month, and I celebrate all month.
Okay. As you should. All right.
Does the council's business slow down in the month of August, or why was August chosen?
I don't know why August was chosen, honestly.
Other than the...
Because we were missing 2 Tuesdays of business, actually 2 Tuesdays, and so that left us with 1 Tuesday to do work. And it seemed logical at that point, but I'm in agreement to stay as well.
I do have a question.
Sure.
The 4th of July falls on Tuesday, which is a national holiday this year.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing in that circumstance? Are we meeting Wednesday or
we're meeting on Thursday at 6? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thanks. I just like to plan my calendar.
Sure.
So
sure.
I wasn't sure how that worked. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're meeting on Thursday because the council chambers is taken on that Wednesday, or?
Yes.
Right.
That's what I figured. Okay.
So is there a motion from the mayor on the August meeting?
Sure, I would move to, that's direction only, I would move to meet in the month of August.
Return to the regular meeting schedule.
I second.
Okay. Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Allen second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. We're meeting in August then. Very good. I won't let us down. We'll have a good meeting. Trust me.
A better month to take off would be December because everybody's so dang busy in that month.
Right.
But if we're looking to take a month off, I'd recommend December.
Okay.
So that can be discussed later.
Right. All right. Claims and adjustments. I move we pay the claims.
Second.
Mayor made the motion. Allen second, or Althouse second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So similar.
All right. Pay the claims and adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Althouse, Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, council.